Thank you for coming. My name is Frank Sariol. I've been an attorney for 34 years and with offices in California and here in Miami, in Doral actually. In Doral, we specialize in only immigration and particularly in investors and business visas. So today I'm going to make you all experts in EB5. Okay, I'm going to take all the innuendos and the gossips about EB5s, and you're going to learn what it is and what it is not. Okay. Before I do that, I want to have a disclaimer. This is not to be taken as legal advice. This is only for information. I will not discuss any particular case in public, as it violates the attorney-client privilege. If you want to meet with me later on, I will gladly meet with you or Oscar, attorney in my firm as well, can meet and discuss each particular case individually. Okay? All right, so what is EB5? EB5 is commonly known as the millionaire's visa. Okay? It really is, they say it's an investment visa. In the case of Archer Place, it really is, but in most cases it is not, because it leads you to a permanent residency, not a visa, and the investment acts as a loan to the developer at a very low interest rate. Okay, so the investment comes back to the investor at the end of the project. So, what are the requirements for the EB5 visa? Now, there's two types of visas. Well, first of all, we have the TEA, which is the Targeted Employment Area. Those projects that fall within the Targeted Employment Area, which means that it's 150% over the average unemployment rate in the United States, then qualifies for a TEA consideration. And that means that $800,000 is all the investor has to put in order to participate with the EB5 visa. Those projects that are outside of the TEA have to come up, the investor has to come up with $1,050,000 in order to participate, okay? And the TEA, again, is identified as 150% of average US employment rate, or it's a rural areas not within major cosmopolitan like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tallahassee. And those, later on, Ivan is going to show you how we determine whether a project is within a TEA or not, okay? This is a very special visa indeed. The main purpose of this visa is to fund a project. Now, there are two types of EB5 visa. First, the direct investment visa, whereby the investor comes in, opens up a business, invests either $800,000 or $1,050,000, depending on the area, employs minimum of 10 full-time employees, and then applies for the EB5 visa. The other one is through a regional center. And in the case of Archer Bay is within a regional center, and in this case, it becomes a very passive type investment. In the direct investment, the investor has to work the business, has to make sure the business prospers and that he maintains the 10 employments. Now, in the regional center arena, the project applies with USCIS. USCIS is the United States Customs and Immigration Service, and they will certify that project as qualifying for EB5s, okay? And for example, Archer Place is qualified by USCIS, okay? Now, there are very few projects that qualify for the $800,000 investment because a lot of them, for example, in Miami, we do not have a lot of TEA areas. Okay, so it's important because your investor is going to be saving $250,000, which is a big difference, whether the project is in the TEA or not. Now, the requirement is that it must be in a new commercial enterprise. We cannot go and buy an existing business that has 10 employees and say, invest 800,000 or $1,050,000 and say, I want an EB5, okay? We have to have a new commercial enterprise that is going to generate new employment. So the purpose of this visa is not only to bring capital in from all over the world, but also to generate those 10 permanent employments to help the economy grow, okay? Now, the investment must be at risk in a commercial sense. We cannot go and guarantee, for example, on a direct visa, an investor comes, opens up a business, puts 800,000 or $1,050,000 in a bank account, hires 10 employees, but that's it. He doesn't put the money at risk. That is not good enough. He has to go and rent a place, he has to buy equipment, he has to not only generate the 10 employments, but that money has to be at risk in a commercial sense, okay? Now, the 10 job requirement for a direct investment is 10 jobs, okay? Direct, W-2 employees, and full-time means 35 hours per week or more. Now, the regional centers have an advantage in that the government allows a regional center to count not only direct employees, W-2 employees, but also indirect. And indirect means, well, because I'm going to be opening Archer Place, there are going to be coffee shops in the bottom and retail stores. So I am creating indirectly, because of this project, jobs, okay? And induced means that because this project is going to generate, I don't know, a population, a new population to the area, the gas station across the street is going to benefit. So they're going to have to employ more people. The linen company that supplies the linen to the restaurants is going to benefit, and they're going to employ people as well. So those are induced jobs, and you can either count them as direct, indirect, or induced, or a combination thereof. And how do they do that? Usually an economist that is recognized by USCIS will go in the area and come up with a study, okay, a market study, that will show the government how we're going to generate these, the 10 employment per investor. And in the case of Archer Bay, how many do you have?
3,000. Almost 3,000.
3,000. So that means 30 placements for EB5, okay? If it were if that restriction was not in place, then they could fund the whole project with EB5. But unfortunately, that's the restriction that we have. Okay. Now, what is an EB5 not? Okay. This is not buying a U.S. residency and subsequently citizenship. Okay. And why not? Because EB5 visas are one of the most difficult visa to get approved because there's high vetting of the investor. The US government does not want drug dealers or people that are laundering money or terrorist organizations or government officials that are stealing from their country to come in and invest and basically clean their money, okay? So there's where Carlos does their job. They look at the source of funds and they make sure that those funds are legal and they have been obtained in a legal way. There's a history that we have to look at. It could come from sale of real estate, from a business overseas, from savings, etc. From loans from banks or institutions, loans from parents or from family members, or it can be a gift, a legitimate gift, or an inheritance from a relative of the person, okay? Now, the applicant must prove that he is admissible to the United States. And he cannot have a criminal record, cannot have overstayed in the United States, cannot be at the time of a crossing, cannot have claimed that he or she was a US citizen. That is a bar, a lifetime bar for the person. The person cannot be involved in prostitution, terrorism, drug dealing. There's a number of factors that are taken into account where the vetting takes place, okay? And then again, the legitimate source of funds. Now, points to consider. This process takes approximately over, well, it's taking between 30 and 49 months to get approved, the initial application, the 526. Okay, you submit that application once you have all your ducks in a row, and then because of the volume, then USCIS is taking that long to approve it. Now, it also has to do with what country the investor is coming from. For example, China, a few years back, the Chinese were taking up 85% of the EB5 visas. So the government said, no, hold on, I'm gonna put a cap, a yearly cap for China, and you're gonna have to wait an additional 2, 3, 4, 5 years to enable, in order to get approved on top of the 30 to 49 months that it takes. Now, once the investor gets approved, we can do one of two things. That investor goes to the consulate of this country, they stamp an immigrant visa in his passport, and the moment that he sets foot in the United States, he will automatically become a legal permanent resident. He or she will have that status for 2 years. It's a conditional residency. And after 2 years, we have to remove that condition, and we do so by proving to USCIS that the project is still in place, that the 10 jobs have been maintained, and that it has not defaulted, the project, and that the person has been of good moral character throughout those 2 years in the United States. Once we remove the condition, then that person gets the residency for 3 more years. After that, after 5 years total, he or she can apply to become a US citizen, okay? Now, we are often faced with a dilemma when our clients come to see us. Well, gosh, I don't want to wait 30 to 49 months to come to the United States. What can I do now? Well, there is a visa It's called E2 visa that some countries in the world qualify for, and that's by treaty. For example, Mexico has a E2 visa for 4 years. Argentina, Costa Rica, Chile, Colombia, Spain, England, etc. They qualify for E2 visas. The investors can come in, invest a relatively small amount of money, between $100,000 and $200,000 in a business, and get that E2 visa, which gives them the ability to come into the country as many times as they want. And every time they come in, they get 2 years of a stay in the country, okay? They can apply for that. As a matter of fact, I was showing an event today that one of our clients that just hired us are doing that. They're coming in, taking the E2 visa, and then after we obtain the E2 visa, we apply for the EB5. And while they're waiting for that approval, they're coming in and out of the country with the E2 visa, which is a very good visa as well, very noble visa. Gives the person all the rights that I have as a citizen, except voting in the elections in the United States. And then when they're ready to receive the legal permanent resident status, then we can change status to that of LPR, okay? And then we go through the same process. It's 2 years conditional, and after 2 years, we remove the condition, etc. Now, another way of doing it is with a B1, B2 visa. B1, B2 is a visitor's visa. A B1 part of it is to a business side of the visitor's visa. The B1 is allows a person to come into the United States and look at investments, come to for seminars, for training, to contact suppliers, manufacturers, etc. But it's a very small window of that the person can come in. Cannot be working, cannot be doing Uber or Lyft driving, cannot go into his company and do sales activities. It's very limited. The B2 is the tourist part of it. Coming to visit Mickey Mouse in Orlando, gonna go to Washington DC, etc., etc. Okay. Now they can come in, and as you may or may not know, the B1, B2 gives the person the ability to stay into the country up to 6 months, and that's given by the CBP officer, the Custom Border Patrol officer, at the time of entry. He'll grant them 6 months, or if he feels that this person is trying to overstay their visit, they may give them less, 2 weeks, or until the return ticket expires. But if the person comes in with a B1, B2 visa, and we're close to, or not even close because the law changed, that person, after 90 days in the country, can apply for the EB5 and also for a change of status within the United States. And that automatically triggers a stay, okay? They will be given a work permit, they'll be given a social security number, they'll be given a travel document that will allow them to come in and out of the country, not using their B1, B2, but this travel document, because they're waiting to change status to legal permanent residence, okay? Once that EB5 approval comes in, then we'll go, sometimes there's an interview, sometimes not, and they'll change to legal permanent resident. And then again, the conditional of 2 years comes in, and after 2 years, the permanent, okay? So that is the gist of the EB5. It's a very specialized visa. If you have clients that are interested in EB5, I will say this, and not because they've invited me to speak here, but Archer Place project is very unique. Okay, first of all, their rate of return, 4.9%, is very high compared to other projects. Other projects pay 0.5 to 1%, if that. And they also offer equity participation for the investors. I really like the project, and it's a very solid project. So if you have clients that are interested, make sure that, first of all, you lead them to a very reputable project, and there are all kinds of projects. I get visited every month by shrimp farm in the middle of the state, ski lodges in Missouri, God knows where, very shady projects. I would never lead a client to any of those projects. I always like to see projects that are solid in that they're backed by real estate. They're projects that have a future like Archer Bay. So, and in the legal part, not every attorney does EB5. Again, it's highly specialized, and you must pick the right firm. And of course, we are the right firm. Yes, sir.
So, just a few questions, we have a few minutes. We are in hospitality management, we manage properties and restaurants. When you mentioned about direct investment and the investor must be employed, if I'm not mistaken, must be involved in operations, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Can they be real passive investors, and for example, a company like ours manages it, or they have to be on payroll? How does it work in direct investment part?
Don't have to be on payroll, they have to own the business. Their investment has to be direct into the business, and the business has to employ and keep the employment for as long as the approval period is going on, and also during the 2 years of conditional. Now, you don't have to keep the same person employed in that. The position is what's important, okay? If you have a chef or a cook or a stew cook, whatever you call it, and one leaves, then the other one comes in, that position is maintained. But the investor does not have to be on payroll, he's the owner. So, you know, the CPAs would tell him what he can or cannot do. If it's I think that is S corporation, which could not be because it's not a resident, but if it's an S corporation, he has to get his salary, but if not, if it's an LLC, as a partnership, he doesn't have to, and so forth and so on.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, well, at the end, we will have more Q&As, right?
We will.
And, all right, thank you again.